The month of February began with the release of the Devblog number 33, and with it came a decent chunk of information regarding Afterthought's plan for the future of Evrima. Some of the notes posted here are quite interesting to say the least, so I decided to take some time to analyze and discuss the matters discussed on the Devblog. This post is divided into 7 chapters. Each one represents a developer of the Isle, being those Amrock, DM4, Wedge, Brian, Tapwing, Mikey, and Kesson. The first piece of information is described by Amrock with a confirmation that the game is indeed switching to Unreal Engine 5. These are incredibly good news. The Isle already operates on Unreal Engine 4, however the most recent version provides many extremely potent tools for developers that are highly helpful, especially regarding open world game creation. The transition from 4 to 5 has several implications that both Afterthought and the fanbase can benefit from. The new engine is more streamlined and makes the process of transferring code and assets not only possible, but relatively easy. This in turn allows developers to finish the process much faster than before, something already proven with Path of Titans, taking just a few months to move the entire game to Unreal 5. For players, the newest engine will also, in theory, drastically increase performance, thanks to the new geometry and lighting systems named Nanite and Lumen respectively. This also improves the game's visual fidelity, especially when it comes to lighting. I went on a more detailed explanation of this matter on my latest Path of Titan video, so give it a shot if you are interested in the more technical side of things. It was implied for quite some time that the devs were already doing this, but it is good to have an official confirmation. Amrock also told us about some animation and dinosaur controller logic improvements that are being worked on, with the objective of making the overall movement of the dinosaurs look smoother and less robotic as he described. The player movement in Evrima is a significant upgrade to Legacies for the most part, however some animations as well as some motion transitions do look a bit too stiff, so that may be what they are focusing at the moment. A small detail in comparison to the game as a whole, but it's a good thing nonetheless. Next is DM4, or DMIV, I don't know, with a more detailed explanation of Ceratosaurus' exclusive mechanic. According to them, Ceras build up bacteria whenever they eat, which can be applied on another dinosaurs through biting. If the target is hit enough times, it will cause them to vomit. It is not explained if the victims puke only once or if they enter in a sick state that makes them puke ever so often, but as far as we know, the way that they are describing Cerato's mechanic is more or less what we were expecting. This certainly makes them a more dangerous predator than before, especially towards other carnivores, since it's implied that they are unable to bite while vomiting. But until we actually seen it in action, we cannot say how effective it will be for sure. It seems that mechanically, Ceras' feature is functional, but still requires some visual assets to be made, as well as some generic testing. Moving on to Wedge, the main sound designer of Afterthought, their chapter was mostly focused on finishing most sounds of the upcoming dinosaurs that we'll talk in a second, as well as the experimentation of meta sounds. Another feature that comes with Unreal Engine 5 that streamlines the creation and implementation of sound effects and music into the game, making the process much easier and more efficient. Metasounds also has some other particular functionalities, but since those weren't mentioned here, it is assumed that they are not being worked on right now. Also, shortly after this blog was published, a few samples of Cerato's animations and sounds were posted on the official Isle Discord. Take a look. Brian is next, mentioning his recent work focused on Cerato's and Kelly's animations, something that we already know from his recent development streams. Currently seems that his focus is on rigging Debo for a future implementation in-game. He also showcased his new baby model, which is it's very cute. Tapwing's chapter was mainly focused on describing the most recent concept art, Ava Ceratops. Mikey also worked on the previously mentioned dinosaurs animations, but Kisson's section is where we can find the most interesting notes out of this entire devblog. Troodon has been confirmed to be soon put into combat testing, being shortly afterwards put on stress test, meaning that this will probably be the next dinosaur being released, which would coincide with what's in the roadmap. Nothing regarding the dinosaur specifically was mentioned other than it's nearly finished. However, Kissen did mention something important regarding dinosaur releases. Their current plan consists on delivering around 7 playables in the near future, separate into 3 waves. The first will consist of Troodon, Baby, Sarah and Gally. The second wave will be Devblog by itself, with the last 2 being Dilophosaurus and Evrima. Although these dinosaurs were mentioned in 3 distinct groups, it doesn't necessarily mean they will all be released at the same time. It does imply that they will be implemented relatively close from each other, with some time gaps between waves. The time window wasn't clarified either, so a safe bet would be that these 7 dinos will be in the game between the space of 1 to 2 years. Kissen also emphasized that this is the plan in case there are no production shifts, meaning that in case some complications might occur, the process might take even longer or be changed entirely, so let's hope such a thing doesn't happen. Dilophosaurus being put to last seems quite odd since it's a venomous dinosaur, which is the theme of update 6.5, so it's kinda weird not having it alongside Troodon, but we haven't seen any development on it for so long that it's clear Dilo is not their priority at the moment. Diablo being put separate from any other dino release, as well as some comments made by Kissen and Brian, imply that ceratopsians are going to either function a bit differently from most species, or that their animations and movement are more complex or difficult to create. Not certain that it's the case, but it is evident that at least Diablo is going to be added with a significant difference when it comes to gameplay experience compared to other dinosaurs. However, this next segment is probably the most controversial and worrying one in this entire devblog. I quote, "We will also begin spinning up 2 apexes so we can establish what an apex animal's impact will truly be like in Evrima. Their capabilities will far exceed anything you have experienced in Legacy, and so need to be extensively tailored." There's a lot to unpack here, so let's do it one by one. So it seems that while the dino waves that we already mentioned previously are being implemented, the devs will start experimenting the presence of apexes in the player ecosystem by introducing 2 of them during that time period. The species in question aren't clarified yet, but the only ones that we saw so far in the new version in any capacity was Triceratops and T-Rex, so those 2 are the most probable candidates. Adding apexes would be a nice change of pace since most dinosaurs already present and planned for the near future are almost exclusively small tier, which is fine, but people are really craving for some big boys, so this should be a good thing. But it may not be, because of what it said next. Their capacities will far exceed anything you have experienced in Legacy, and so need to be extensively tailored. This directly and unequivocally confirms that apexes will be even stronger than how they are currently implemented in Legacy. This is a massive red flag. Apexes in the Isle, especially carnivores, always had a clear power gap between them and the other dinosaur tiers, a gap that grew larger and larger over the years. It is expected that these massive creatures should be more powerful than smaller members of the roster, but they became so much superior than any other dinosaur that apexes became a real problem. Nearly 70% of all dinosaurs, not just carnivores, dinosaurs on any given server are some flavor of apex predator, primarily Rexes. I made a whole video regarding this issue a while back, so if you're interested, feel free to check it out. By stating that they will be even more powerful than before will exponentially exacerbate this issue. At this point I have no idea if Evrima will have any concept of balance once half the roster is in a game, let alone its entirety. A bunch of small tiers are either overshadowed by another dinosaur or utterly useless for players. They make some mid tiers overly powerful while also making a Rex-sized herbivore a locker. I will not forget that one, by the way. There are more and more niche overlaps the more concept arts are posted, and now with the confirmation of even more powerful apexes, this game will be completely chaotic. by saying that their gameplay will be extensively tailored may indicate that their power will be limited or restricted in some way. This is a very vague statement, so it's hard to get any idea what they mean. It is very hard to speculate how they would increase their capabilities without making 80% of the roster completely redundant on a gameplay perspective, but if it is anything more than how they are in Legacy already, it is very, very bad news. Now, going on a more positive piece of information, lastly we have a few notes regarding perks and elders. We now know for sure that perks will be acquired through numerous means, being eating, growth method/speed, and miscellaneous activities some examples. The perks will also be attached to specific factors, meaning that the system itself will have a consistent form of gaining set perks, allowing players to pick and choose what they want to have with as minimal randomness as possible, assuming they perform the necessary acts accordingly. Elders will be an important component to keep the perks we gathered through the dinosaur's life cycle, although it is worth pointing out that Kissen said some and not all, which still begs the question if we can choose the few perks that we can keep, or if it is completely RNG. But if it is the same thought process as the rest of the system, it is most likely to be the former. And that's it. Those were the most important points of the Isle Devblog number 33. If you enjoyed this video format, make sure to let me know in the comments below. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and the content I create. If you wanna join the ranks, the link will be in the description. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Join our Discord server for memes and pillar nut stuff, and I hope to see you next week.